The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the host and guest and do not reflect the opinions or policies of the station, its owners, or its advertisers. All content should be considered editorial in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Recorded live from the radio studios of WFAY and WMRV, Androlonis Media presents Cumberland County's smartest hour of talk radio. Welcome back to another edition of the Carolina Cabinet.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Carolina Cabinet. I'm Peter Pappas and I'll be your host this morning. We are proud to be the only homegrown conservative talk radio show in the region, and I know at least, that this is the smartest hour of radio. If you're listening to us this morning, you're listening to us on WFAY 100.1 and the River WMRV 106.5. This morning, we welcome host in the Cabinet, Bishop Antoine Minor.
Hear, hear.
Ms. Carrie J.
Fire the Uniparty.
Fire it.
Fire it.
And welcoming Colonel Retired, Mr. John Gobrick.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Good to see you, sir. Nice to meet you. So this morning, we're going to have a pretty exciting day. We're going to dive into the show. We appreciate you tuning in and spending time with us this morning. Take a moment to like, share, or follow us on Facebook and look for us at thecarolinacabinet.com. And you can find us on your favorite podcast broadcaster. So don't go far. We'll be right back.
Since 2012, Joshua Goodman has been the senior pastor at the Cliffdale Christian Center, a dynamic church and ministry located in West Fayetteville. Join our friend Pastor Goodman for a podcast or a live sermon in person at 6427 Cliffdale Road. Now for today's good news. Here is Joshua Goodman.
And standing in for Pastor Joshua Goodman is our favorite bishop, Antoine Minor.
Hear, hear.
Good morning, sir.
Good
what good news
morning.
do you have for us today?
You know, I've been in the process of finishing up a book that I'm writing. We're done. It's in the manuscript, and we're just going over it. It's called Facing the Storm, Dealing with Life's Natural Disasters. And the book talks about how different storms that we go through, thunderstorms, windstorms, blizzards, all of these different storms, how we face some of these storms in our own lives personally. And this is a book that has been 15 years in the making. I started writing this book 15 years ago, and I didn't, it's not because I didn't have the words to say and I had writer's block. It's because I was going through my own storms over the last 15 years. And every time I tried to finish this book, another storm came up. And oftentimes that's how it is in our lives when we are focused on things. We are trying to get things done. Life is lifing and storms are raging. But the good thing is that in the midst of every storm, we serve the one who calms the sea. We serve the one who walks on water. You know, there's a scripture that talks about Paul, and it talks about when Paul was being taken, and it says that Paul, the ship, there arose a great storm called Euroclydon. And when the storm arose, it tore the ship to pieces. And the Bible says that some came on boards and some on pieces, but we all made it to the other side and we made it safely. And so my good news for you today, friends, is no matter what storm you are facing, no matter what you are going through in life, it may be 15 years in the making, but you will get to the other side safely because you have the one who calms the sea, the one who they said, what manner of man is this, that even the winds and the seas obey him. And so that's my good news for you this morning, ladies and gentlemen. No matter what the storm is, you're coming out of it. God bless you. And that, friends, is good news.
The cancel culture is not welcome here. You're listening to the conservative Carolina Cabinet, Eastern North Carolina's most offensive talk show to the freeloading left.
And welcome back to the Carolina Cabinet. It's nice to see everybody again.
Good to see you.
So,
as they say in the church, good to be seen.
Good to be seen. Yes, not 6 feet under.
There you go.
There you go. So, so we got a pretty nice little show today. So I want to brag a little bit about the cabinet. We rank. I know you thought I
thought it said we stink.
No, but that would be you.
Oh, hey.
That we smelling.
Sometimes it happens. But, life happens. Bro.
So we, the cabinet ended up on 2 independent websites as being ranked in North Carolina as we're in the top 10 podcasts. We're actually number 6 statewide.
Look at us.
And
number 6.
And there's some other little like listener scores and stuff, but we're actually making an impact with what we're doing here.
Just imagine if we get some followerships with that.
Yeah, you know, we can get I'll take some sponsorship.
Absolutely.
Sponsorship works too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, you know, I just want to say that I think a lot of it has to do with you guys being here with me every week.
You're welcome.
Somebody showing up and supporting me. That's the biggest thing. And then we all pull together the stories.
Yes.
And even though it's last minute sometimes, and sometimes we provide food, sometimes I don't. But you still come whether there's food or not. So that's the important thing. You still show up.
We do.
You know, and showing up for friends in your community. But I do want to just, say we're going to be committed to continuing to create good shows that are relevant to the people that listen to us. The cabinet is here for that, I don't know, the straight to the public, give them the straight dope. We want to have the people in here. The straight dope. Do I have to? I don't
know. Let's not say.
I don't want to give them straight dope.
Okay, straight talk.
There you go. Straight.
Is that
talk.
better?
Yeah,
straight
talk. Because straight
Bishop,
dope. You
if
took
I
me
say
back to
something
Harlem.
wrong, I have you here to pray for me.
I'm not praying for you,
please. Okay, because I certainly need
it. So it's Pastor Josh when you need it.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, Well, in my
Josh
defense, I'm being left unsupervised, and this is what happens. So
I know.
But I want to be that conduit. I want to have the politicians, the elected officials, the community activists. We're going to talk about some local stuff here in a moment, but. So there are some changes to the cabinet, though. I didn't want to bring up to you guys. So we're taking a break from the airwaves for a little bit. We're going to be podcast only.
Okay.
We're a little too controversial to be on the radio right now. The FCC changed some rules, and people are trying to invest from foreign countries into our media. So out of fairness, because
fire the uniparty,
because our station wouldn't find and would not play a straight liberal crazy town talk. They needed to kind of let us be quiet a little bit, but
is it like
it's a temporary thing?
So we can't talk because the liberals
there
talk?
wasn't a balance because the owner of the stations and the powers that be said, you know what, we're not going to deal with that liberal.
You want me to play liberal?
You can't play liberal.
You already play the victim with me sometimes. You're going to play
Bishop,
liberal too.
You can't play liberal.
No, there's no way, Bishop.
No.
You couldn't do it convincingly. I don't think so.
You couldn't do it.
Not Captain America.
But look, we're taking a break from the radio. We're still in the Andrew Lunos Media studios, and sometimes we'll be out of the
uniparty. Like, forget all this red and blue crap. Okay, the only place that red and blue belongs is on the flag. That's it.
Okay,
all right. Well, let's just leave it there.
Look, I can't fight City Hall. If City Hall says it's got to be a certain way, all I can do is bring people in here and talk about it and then go fight it that way.
Yeah.
But what that means, we're going to be doing hopefully more shows, maybe shorter in length so that our audience can take those and kind of digest them easier than a 1 hour, hour and a half. And I'm going to actively be seeking out what's on the people's mind in Fayetteville, and we're going to shed as much light as possible on what's happening in the greater Fayetteville area.
Good stuff.
That's it. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I was a little bummed the first weekend when I learned that we were going to have to be kind of off the radio, but it doesn't mean I'm going to start cussing or coming in with no shirt or something like that.
Then I'd have to pray for you. Then I'd have to pray for you.
All right, that's awesome.
So it's with yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So
please,
we're still
somebody come get this guy.
Standard.
So I just have a couple of things for national political climate. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but Doge is still going strong. Anybody see anything about Doge this week? Who they pissed off this week?
Everybody.
Carrie? Do you have a story that's relevant or anything?
I mean, the only thing that I, can think of is the lovely cabinet member that, likes to drink and text war plans. And, I mean, he's awesome. He's very awesome.
Are you talking about Secretary Hegseth?
I was talking,
your namesake.
Yes, that would probably be.
That's fine.
And I mean, he's cool.
The guy, he does push-ups with his soldiers, and he likes to drink and probably do other things the soldiers like too. He's a soldier, and he screwed up.
But
it's awesome.
But he didn't send anything classified, though.
No,
That's
he
true.
did.
That's true.
It was very
Was
much
it?
classified.
Was it very
The information that he put out there.
Well, they said it wasn't. They
is
said it
not.
wasn't classified.
It was need to know. So need to know by definition is classified.
It's not a journalist.
Yeah, yeah.
But need to know anything that can be accessible, and if it can be accessible to a journalist, then that means that it was on a non-secure line, which means that anybody else.
Well, and didn't he have an internet line installed that was insecure in his Pentagon office? Wasn't that something I saw in the last week?
I cannot confirm or
So he
deny
could
that.
use the Signal app, I think, was what the end result was.
You
But
could
wasn't
never.
he? But he was authorized to use Signal. They
Yeah.
told him. They told the cabinet to use Signal for communications. So that's what has me weirded out.
The
Is that?
fact that
Yeah,
he,
but you still have to choose who's on the conversation.
Yeah,
I don't
but I think that's the other.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
I mean,
the issue.
Well, there's a lot to that, because just because you can use an unclassified version or a NIPRNet version of something does not mean that the information that you are going to talk about needs to be on that channel of communication.
Fair enough.
I thank you for shaking your head, Mr. Gobrick.
Yep.
In agreement with that. And so the only thing that had came up from there is he had just signed I don't know, it can't say it's an executive order, but I guess so, because it's coming from the executive office. He signed something about bringing back good faith and order to the U.S. military. And my thing is, if DEI is pretty much eradicating EEO, is there really something for you to bring as a standard? Because anything that you're going to enforce is technically eliminated. So I'm not understanding.
But does DEI eliminate EEO? I don't think it does.
No.
Because
everything that it's going after. If you can't say that you're the first woman, the first black, the first Hispanic, you have to take away all of those
But I don't think that's-
nomenclatures.
Okay, but what does
That's not
DEI have
EEO,
to do with Pete Hegseth sending out over?
Because
he could have
it
been
was-
drunk texting an ex and
He wasn't
accidentally
drunk texting
had
an
the
ex.
wrong person. Well, who was the
It was
reporter?
an
Who knows?
actual-
I mean, I don't
it
know.
was
What
an
does this guy look
actual-
like? You know?
It was an actual executive order that he had signed and put out to the Department of Defense.
And the executive
which is-
order was for what?
And the executive order was to bring back, I guess, like a regulation of fairness. It was specifically about EEO, but it was about, in the order what he was saying in his message when he was signing it was that he wanted to take away, I guess, if people were doing it grudgingly, which that's always an issue. Like how
What,
can
like
you
retaliatory?
prove,
upon
like
something?
retaliatory EEO complaints, and it's
Okay.
like how
let's
can
just
you
keep Mr. Hegseth off a Signal. I think going forward.
Even on that, he actually went on the news and did a live broadcast when he signed it and explained what he was signing. He said it was to restore order and to make sure that if there were EEO complaints that they were validated, because people were filing EEO complaints and causing individuals to lose their careers over things that just because somebody decided they just wanted to say something. So he put that information out. So that's where I'm a little confused. Is like if he put it out on the news, then what's the issue with it being in the Signal app? Because he already shared it, and when he did it live on TV.
But that wasn't what was in Signal. What he shared on Signal was like, hey, there's we're doing this assault and it's going to be here and
but
times.
This is my tinfoil hat version of that, though. I think that was easier than actually sending the bombs and the planes to those people, because I think whoever he was talking about started to act right really quickly.
And that's
if I'm not mistaken.
And that's where I think we are.
So
I think
I think
we're in a major.
I'm not trying to explain it away, but I'm thinking maybe that was cheaper than going and bombing the hell out of these people.
I think we're in the middle of.
Oh, he did still. Well, good.
Yeah, we still did bomb. We just didn't do the same.
We just gave him a little notice. Yeah, is what we did.
But I think a lot of this, what we're seeing, whether it's Hegseth with the Signal app, or even stuff that the administration as a whole is putting out, there is a major psyop going on. There is a major psychological operation that's going on right now, and some of it, I think, some of the information that goes out, I think it goes out intentionally.
It must.
It goes out
because I'm
intentionally.
looking at the players. I'm like, I know Mr. Hegseth is not an idiot.
Yeah.
I know that he knows how to text or not.
I'm
text.
not saying that he's not an idiot. I'm just saying that, and I'm not saying that he is one. I'm just saying that I do not understand. So to me, and this is just me
and
reading
for the
it,
audience, I think we need to remind everybody that all three of my panelists tonight are veterans.
Yes.
Carrie is a veteran of I don't know how many years. Were you
8
in?
years, 8 months.
years. Bishop,
15 years.
and then I think we have 44.
34.
No, 34.
Yeah, I'm not that old.
I'm just kidding. So I think we have enough experience in this room to speak logically about this topic. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yes. And I'm just going to go back. Like, I feel like in order to put out an executive order that is going to enforce standards, like there has to therefore be standards. And a lot of those standards are in the process of being remade and reshaped through the DEI executive order that was signed by the president. So that the DEI does affect EEO very much. And a lot of people, and actually the accessibility, because it should be DEIA, that includes accessibility, that is all affected in that executive order. And a lot of people, I think there's some where it's like, oh, well, we're just really trying to target LGBTQ. Okay, well, that's great. However, under that DEI umbrella falls all other nationalities. And I mean, we've seen it with, when they, removed like the first, from different
when they took out Harriet Tubman.
And the stuff at Arlington Cemetery, like we saw how it affected. So if that's the effect that the military had, and they had to purge all of that information and all those classifications, then that means that they also purged it from an EEO standpoint. So for you to create an executive order that then says, hey, these are the standards for EEO, but you really don't have EEO, I don't understand it.
Here's what I think should have happened. And Pete, if you listening, if somebody know Pete, get this to him, because we top rated. So go on, send this over to him.
Top rated.
Here's what should have happened. It's very simple. You don't need an extensive executive order. He should have just simply said, we are returning the military to pre-Biden standards, period. Female soldiers, get that hair up off your collar. Soldiers, make them uniforms look like you got some bearing and customs and courtesies. Let's return the military back to pre-Biden standards where soldiers showed up for work. 'Cause, I mean, have you guys seen, like, on TikTok, how you have soldiers in uniform that are just a hot mess? You got them on there saying,
So,
I didn't get put
as
on
a
this
civilian,
uniform to
I
serve.
remember when the soldiers would get in trouble, and they probably still do, for not having their cover when they're in uniform.
Not really.
I remember. I'm only.
There was a time.
Well, now you
Yeah.
can't yell at a soldier now.
From a civilian looking in, it's like a lot of people are like, well, what's the big deal? Their hair and this, that, and the other. But on the military side, that is part of being.
There is a
being part
standard.
of the military. You are uniform.
Exactly.
Because when the time comes, there's
a
orders to be
standard.
followed. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
but to go to his point, I guess I wouldn't say like pre-Biden. I would probably even go back to
Even further.
I would go back a few.
I don't think there's any
years.
argument in
We
this
go back
room
to the
that the
Clinton
Army and
standards.
military has changed dramatically. I think even your career,
Yes.
John, it's not the Army you joined.
No. Things
it's
definitely
very
changed.
drastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because you can't yell at them and
Soldiers now in basic training literally have stress cards.
Yeah, I know, but
If
they
you yell at them, they pull out the stress card.
You know what? Not everybody grew up with a dad that told them how to hold the flashlight.
Listen.
And that's what we're dealing
Well, see,
with.
that's what we're
here.
trying to train. Like, they train them.
Let's get back to AR 670-1, the wear and appearance of the military
See,
uniform.
who tell me that Bishop can't memorize
Let's
stuff?
get back to it.
I'm impressed. He
FM
remembers
21
that. I was
dash
like,
20,
wow.
right?
That's my thing right there. Wearing the appearance of the military uniform. You know what it says? I mean, it got some stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like putting your hands in your pocket.
Yeah.
It says nothing
never
shall
put it in there.
protrude from the Army uniform.
Yes.
You will either remove it or cut it off. Like,
Yes.
let's go.
Yeah, I mean, that is the truth.
Let's get back to the standard. That
That is
and that's
true.
as simple as it is. We're making
it's such
it
a
too
small
complicated.
thing, it seems like, but it's I think it's such a large thing for.
It is.
I mean, what do they call it? Unit cohesion and stuff like that.
It is.
We're all one team.
Yeah.
There is
We
no
are.
We're an army of one.
individuality. Yeah.
We're an
Yeah.
army of one.
Okay.
Killing us out.
Well,
Yeah.
so how many iterations of the military do you think you saw? How many permutations?
Oh, my gosh.
Geez.
How many
You
revolutions?
said 34. When did you get out?
22. So
Okay.
2 years.
Okay.
He got it after me.
Whoa,
3
he's
years
seen
ago.
a lot.
Oh my God!
So
It'll be
you
3 years
joined
in June.
'88.
Yes.
So he's
that was
going
post
through
the post
that
big
was-
Grenada
Yes.
win.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
that was still, he has Desert Storm under his belt. He has Desert Shield.
Yep.
Probably Kuwait.
So he's had
there's a lot of
Yes.
He's had ACUs.
Yes.
Yes.
He's had what's the new ones now? The digital ones.
Yep, the digital.
Well, those are they were
the
still
digital-
like ACUs.
And then you've gone from Army Strong to we went from Be All You Can Be, Army Strong, and Army of One. What's the new one? The Army keep changing.
I think
Army
it went
of
back to
Rainbow?
Be All
I
You Can
think-
Be.
yeah,
I think
we're
back to
it
Be All You
went
Can Be?
back, Yeah.
yeah, we're back to Be All You Can Be.
Yeah.
Well, it worked. I mean,
Yeah, and he's gone from the Army Greens
Yes.
to the, I guess it's like a khaki.
Yeah,
a khaki.
the Ike jacket, the AGSU.
yeah, the
I forgot
the
what it
khaki
stands
color.
for.
like
and
the
then-
one like World War II looking uniforms.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that was a
and
good
then-
look. I mean,
And then I think it went back to the the dress blues, and then back. I don't know.
and all of which the
crazy.
soldier has to pay for out of their pocket, right?
Yeah, well, they get a clothing allowance
Yes.
once a year.
Yes, you get a clothing
you know?
allowance once a
Yeah,
year.
the enlisted get a clothing allowance. The officers have to pay. They get a one-time. I think it's, if I remember correctly, I think it was $600. Which
Against how much?
I mean, yeah. It did.
I mean, the jacket alone probably costs
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
$450.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
Not to
But I
include
miss the army of shine your boots, starch your uniform. You had to come in with your military. We had a guy who he didn't want to do his military creases, so he went to the cleaners and had them stitch them in, and didn't think during inspection the commander was going to realize it. Commander made him take his top blouse off, rip the stitches out, gave him Article 15. That was good stuff. That's the army.
See,
I like.
that's what you can't do.
Yeah,
You know,
you
there's
can't do that
shortcuts.
now.
You can't do
yeah.
shortcuts.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
miss
shortcuts.
that army. I miss the army where you
well,
take an
I think
orange
the
out
army will take
defect.
you back.
The army
They-
will not
yeah.
take
No,
him back.
he won't take
They
you
won't
back.
take me back.
I mean, they will. No, hold on, wait.
Because of
I
his body of work
digress.
out here on the show.
No, because he is indefinite. Like
Yeah.
he's indefinite. He's indefinite. I'm not indefinite.
But the only one really will call me out of retirement is the president.
Okay.
Now, if he called me out of retirement, depending on the president.
Donald Trump picked up the phone right now and said,
If
Bishop,
Trump called me,
we need you.
me and my kids heading to D.C.
All
We
right,
out.
that's
Now,
all
if
right.
Biden would have called me, he'd have had to find me. I ain't coming.
So the next
I know.
national thing, I want to move off of this. ICE deportations and Maryland dad.
well, we
and
glad
due
you still
process.
here, Peter.
Oh, yeah. Man, I'm safe. So, one thing I've been observing the last week or so are all these politicians, senators or congressmen going down to El Salvador and breaking bread with these illegals that have been deported, and people are claiming, well, they didn't get due process. They didn't. What do you think? They're spending more time on non-voting non-constituents than their actual constituents.
They're working on their constituents. That's
Well-
their new constituency.
But that's not. They're not a citizen. They're not a constituent.
They're not. A lot
Just
of
all of
because
them
they
not-
happen to get here illegally and live in that dude's district does not make them a constituent.
I agree.
Maybe legally it does,
Well,
but
here's the thing. When we look at immigration and we look at everything that's going on, even with the ICE raids and the deportations and stuff, I believe that the plan was to get all of these illegals in and somehow merge them into the system where they could vote and other
Right.
stuff like, because I believe the Democrat Party knew
that is
the
a
black vote
conspiracy
was
theory
going
that
the
I will
other
go
way.
along with.
The thing-
Absolutely.
So here's the thing. This is my thing, and that's only because ever
Give it
since
to
we
him,
talked
Carrie.
about, voter integrity, like I went and I researched this stuff, is that there have been, yes, there are people that vote illegally, but they're caught in the system.
Not always.
The system is due to catch them, and if it's not always, like for example, the stuff that we're going through now, then there is a penalty for.
There is. But
There are penalty for those actions, whether it's done by the
Correct.
Board of Elections, someone serving at the Board of Elections, someone, and that's this is. I'm sorry, this is one of the things, it kind of vexes me because of the simple fact that we just talked about the military and everything. But one of the things, I know everybody loves to see those bombs over, and they hear about the wars and everything like that. But one of the most, I want to say important initiatives that the military does is we go and we foresee other elections and to keep them safe.
right.
To possibly mirror
keep their integrity of their
and then
elections.
to possibly mirror democracy because we are almost like a standard for said democracy. And a lot of nations get mad at us because we do that, and they call us we're interfering with their elections and stuff like that. And then it breeds
contempt, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, if people stop
that
dying to get into this country, when people stop doing that, then we know we're screwed as a country. But people are still dying to get into our country, breaking our borders, getting in illegally, whatever it is. But you do not a citizen make by doing so.
Yeah.
You're just not.
That is true.
And the argument of the 14th Amendment, I keep hearing it. And I have to just be, the 14th Amendment was specifically written for slaves. It was for the children of slaves.
People
it was
who were
not
brought
for,
here against their will.
Exactly.
But,
it was not for come to the border, jump the wall, go through a tunnel, show up, now you got all of this stuff. Now, I believe in due process. However, if when you talk about this, the guy down in El Salvador, he's not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, people say bring him home. I commented on every video I could find on TikTok. I said he is home.
He is not a U.S. citizen. Even the president of El Salvador said he's not coming back. He does not belong to y'all. He is our citizen.
That's right.
And he was under 2 previous deportation orders and was removed from the country and came back. He has no due process. When you get to that right there, you have no due process. You broke in the country the first. That's like breaking in my house twice and then expect me to sit there and sit down with you and have you explain to me why you broke back in. No,
right.
You got to go. You got to go. You are a criminal. And
right.
and the way the media is portraying it. And then I heard earlier this week, there were 3 children, 1 4, 1 2, and 1 7. They deported children. No, they deported the mothers.
And she chose to take the children
and
with her.
And they made it clear, if there was a father here in the States that was a citizen that wanted to keep the children, then the parents could have worked that out. But the mothers, more than one, said, I'm taking my child with me. Well, guess what? You got to go. The child, you can't just leave the 2-year-old here, or the 4-year-old, or the 7-year-old.
I mean, they could technically.
But who gonna take care of them? Us. That's what it's gonna be.
So the thing about the illegal voting and all, yes, that is a small incident that we actually have caught. But what I think more is the Democrat Party has shown us from the Great Society, LBJ. We talked about that on a previous show.
It's time?
No, we're back on. We're good.
No.
The Great Society, LBJ, was very vocal about if we take the fathers out of black homes, et cetera, and so forth, we'll keep them voting Democrat for like 200 years. So I just think this is a new iteration of the Great Society of this migration, because eventually these people will have children, anchor babies, whatever you want to call it, but then those children are citizens. And if they're grown up in a system where they're taking advantage of our largesse as a country, they're going to vote for who gave them the largesse, who gave them the food stamps, who gave them, job, whatever. We can't afford to keep this going.
We can't
this way. So
we can't.
Yeah. I do want to clarify that slavery does not just mean black folks. I mean, there were Chinese, there were other nationalities. There were Irish.
There were some Greeks in there.
I just want to make sure that because a lot of people, when they hear
we were the
word
ones that got killed
slavery,
first, though. I think we're the biggest.
But when they hear the word slavery, they think of
just African American.
Now, I need you to take what you just said, Carrie, and I mean, I don't know how you're going to package that for the black community. And I'm being serious. The black community, when we hear slavery, the ultimate thing we hear is black people. It was only us. And when you mention any other demographic that was enslaved or in servitude in any way, it ain't got nothing to do with us. Yeah, it does, because we weren't the only one. Listen,
we weren't the only.
There were some white folk picking cotton too. There were some black slave owners. We got to be. If we're going to tell history, cause I'm still mad about them removing Harriet Tubman as the conductor.
Don't go to the museum. How about that?
Because I can't help it now. And I got to go to see.
John looks puzzled. Explain to him what you're talking about.
Go ahead, Carrie, because I'm furious.
They removed Harriet Tubman.
They removed her as the conductor, so she wasn't. Well, they placed her back as the conductor. They have done that because I do believe. They had
because they heard me fussing.
They probably heard you fussing.
They removed
That's
her
correct.
portrait from where?
But they removed it from. I want to say the National Park Service.
Yeah,
removed her her title, and they were trying to make it look, just make it look like a joint effort. Which to me, the story of the Underground Railroad has always been told as a joint effort. I've never heard of it.
She wasn't the only person.
It's almost like
exactly.
but I mean, it's almost like NAACP. Everybody knows that it was founded by at least 4 non-colored people. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Even
most
though it was
people
for
that have
the-
read,
Listen,
yeah, they get that.
We gave them Aunt Jemima.
Jesus Christ.
They done took her off the pancake box.
What about Uncle Ben?
They
took
Uncle
him
Ben,
off
I think.
too. Uncle
They
Ben
took him
too.
too.
Okay.
I'm about tired. Now, if they're going to take off Aunt Jemima, take off that Pillsbury Puff Boy. 'Cause
Didn't Aunt Jemima come back?
She
I don't
did
know.
make
I
it
thought
come
she
back.
came back.
And she's
So-
making it. She's
Yeah,
making
she's
it come back.
She's
Yeah.
back.
So I mean, but
Don't
she's
call
making
it a
it come back.
I've been here for years.
Meanwhile, they're removing artifacts from the Museum of the African
It's
American.
revisionist history.
And the thing is that so if you're gonna, and I'm with Bishop on this. If you're gonna tell the truth, tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell your version of the
Sanitized
truth.
version of it.
Don't
And that
please.
truth can be uncomfortable. See, we
It
as
can
a
be-
country,
it
we
is
don't want
very-
discomfort.
It
It's
needs
We
to
want
be
ease
uncomfortable.
It,
you know.
like, can we actually sit with the fact that meanwhile, while we had slavery and lynchings, we also had concentration camps here on American soil? I mean, they were off on the West
There was
Coast.
one. Okay, there was
Okay, well,
probably
there
more
was-
than one, but
there was a
okay,
little bit
it was
more
one
than one.
time with some I mean, okay.
It was one time. However, those are the reasons why we have the relationships that we have. It's one of the reasons why we are in like a NATO alliance. All of that is because of our history. It's not like in spite of it, or we got to pay more, and like it's all of that makes up America, and that's what makes us great as Americans.
I was just having the discussion today with a friend, a very liberal friend, by the way. Melting pot. We don't hear that word a lot, but this country was meant to be a melting pot of different
I used to hear
civilizations.
that,
Yes.
that word quite a bit.
And now
It is.
it's like a salad bowl. It's everything is. It's not homogenous anymore. It's all these bits and pieces. Everybody's struggling to hold some individual identity.
It's like
and forgetting we're American.
It's like a plate in prison. They don't like their food touching.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of compartmentalized. It's all on the same plate. But you don't touch me. I don't. We have nothing to do with each other, even though we all on the
But
same plate.
we all on the same, and we are all Americans at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, I'm not sure if any of you guys follow me on social media, but
Girl,
I
I
posted
be seeing
something.
you.
I posted something about a week ago, and I was like, man, once they find the shackles at the bottom of Statue of Liberty's feet, she's gonna fall under DEI.
They
And
gonna
that's
tear her
only
down. She gone.
because she already proclaims that she's here to be a beacon of light to those that you have cast away, and for your homeless, like I will take the poor is what pretty much the summary of what
Your
it
huddled
says.
masses.
Right,
Yes,
right.
your huddled masses of poor and inflicted. So we have to take it all in, and
Let me say this.
if you don't want to, just take a shot behind it.
Yeah, let me say this, because we have the three of us have served in the U.S. military. I'm a conservative. We're either conservatives, independents, liberals, whatever. At the end of the day, I may not agree with everything liberals say and stuff like that, but I put on that uniform for 15 years to ensure that whether I agreed with you or not, that you had the right and the freedom to say what it is
That you wanna say.
you wanted to say.
Yep.
I don't have to like it, but don't desecrate what I did and how I served
Yep.
by pushing out all these lies. Just tell the truth.
Yep. There you go.
Tell the truth. I put on that uniform knowing the history of this country, and I wore that uniform proudly, and I literally cried the day I signed my retirement ID. The lady said, "Are you ready to retire?" I said, "No, ma'am." She said, "Well, you don't have a choice right now." And a tear dropped on the ID card because I loved serving this country so much. And whether it was here or when I was overseas, I did it with honor. I did it with distinction. I did it with pride. I did it with dignity and professionalism.
Yep.
And I represented every idea that makes up this country. And I think we
that's
all
what
did.
makes and that's what makes America great.
Yeah.
Because despite of the different histories and the many shades that America has, given
50 Shades of Grey.
everyone, yes, all 50 shades, right? Plus, and then some. There has still been people that have been proud to wear the uniform,
Absolutely.
in spite of how they're going to be treated when they don't have that uniform on, or with the uniform on inside of the ranks. So they still proudly wore the uniform. They proudly, said that because, like you said, we took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. So it didn't matter. And so it's like when everybody talks and I know I get on my fire, the uniparty stuff, and you guys are like, why does she keep on saying this? Because I think we have turned into a nation that is so much about, red and blue, Republicans and Democrats, that we forget that it's at the end of the day, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're going to support and defend this Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, because every elected official raises their right hand, regardless of if they are state, county, city, any position, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So if you are taking that oath, then I expect you to uphold that oath. And anything that's against the Constitution, then guess what? You're my enemy by default.
And if you live in this country, I expect you to respect that Constitution. That's an expectation of mine. Because if I go to any other country, I have to respect their laws, their ways, their customs, whatever when you come here, even if you was born here, if you can't respect that document, kick rocks. That's just where I am with it. Kick rocks, go somewhere else where you can, I hear people talk about, America this,
Don't come
America
here and try
that.
to make it like the country that you're escaping from.
Exactly. And if you were born here, and you don't like it here, listen, there's 1,000 other countries where you can make yourself comfortable. Go ahead. And if you can, and when you find a country that provides better for you than this country, even on its worst day, then you talk to me. Until then, I ain't got nothing to say to you.
All right. And we're going to talk more about our last couple of topics and introduce Mr. Gobrick here when we return.
Absolutely.
Woo-woo.
Have another cup of coffee and get fired up with the Carolina Cabinet, Eastern North Carolina's smartest conservative morning talk show. Hard-hitting, truth-telling. You're listening to the Carolina Cabinet, Eastern North Carolina's answer to the radical left. Liberal media's blah, blah, blah. Welcome back to local conservative talk radio.
And welcome back to the Carolina Cabinet. I'm Peter, and I'm your host this morning, along with Bishop Minor.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah. And Ms. Carrie J.
Support and defend the Constitution.
And firing the Uniparty.
Fire the Uniparty.
And
yes.
And Mr. John Gobrick. Now, am I to, what do you prefer, Colonel Gobrick?
I could prefer John.
Just John? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So before we get into, that's who's in studio this morning, but there's two things left on my list that I swear I'm going to get through. So local GOP news. Bishop, you were at that meeting. So the local the local Republican Party of Cumberland County had their first executive committee meeting run by the new chairman. And how do you think the meeting went?
Was I there?
You were there.
Was I really there?
You were behaving too.
I was.
I was impressed because I think you and I both got a talking to before the meeting.
I was on my good Republican behavior.
You were on good behavior.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have to yell at nobody.
Nope.
Nobody got
but
out
I was
of
doing
line.
a lot of snitching.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw me, but every time they tried to cut up, I was like, because I ain't want anybody to think it was me.
Look, not for nothing. There are still some naysayers present about the new board, and it's, well, my notes I said, but they're old and gray, and nobody cares what they like, what they think, or whatever. But the thing is, they're just
they matter too.
Yeah, but you know what?
Old lives matter
in a way that's productive, but they. Anyway,
they can be unproductive.
There was some history, whatever else. But what I want to take from that meeting was this: Chairman Sykes, he ran the meeting, he ran the agenda, he gavelled people he needed to gavel to control the meeting. So, as a respect for us, the volunteers of the executive committee, that we're in and out of there in like an hour.
Yeah, I think we got out of there within about an hour.
It was like an hour 10, I think, and so that's one thing I wanted to bring
they
up.
have no food though.
Yeah, well, no food, but I think we're
and the vending machine didn't work.
Why are you complaining, man? Always complaining with you.
You know I need food.
I didn't see you bring food.
All right, next time I bring some fried chicken and collard greens.
I mean, isn't he a chef? He's a chef. All the complaining.
I know, all this complaining.
What y'all trying to
Chef's
say?
supposed to eat the best.
I
do.
But
I eat good.
And one other thing is that they are trying to reactivate the Young Republicans for Cumberland County. So there's actually motivation from the board to actually start to engage the younger Republicans because they said we're old and we're going to age out.
Yeah.
So we need to engage the younger groups. So that was pretty good. Local politics. So next Monday, I think it's Monday the 7th of May.
It's Wednesday is the 7th.
Is Wednesday the 7th?
Yeah,
okay, so there's a work session for Fayetteville City Council that day. After that work session, they're going to have a special meeting, and they're going to bring up dun, dun, dun,
Who's having a special meeting?
curfew.
Ooh, but hold on, wait though.
The mayor announced.
They ain't my
today.
The
mama.
mayor announced today that there is a curfew in place.
Well, they should be. Have we seen what happened this
Well,
weekend?
Cumberland County has a curfew anyway.
Cumberland County
you
has
remember
a curfew
this
anyways.
topic came up 2 years ago before City Council, and I remember friends of ours here on the show and other people came out against the curfew, people who had children, because of the constitutionality of where's the line? How do we know that kid is XYZ age? How do we know they're up to no good? How do we know they're not going to and from a job? So there was all kinds of nuance. Like the raw energy out there is curfew. But then when you get down to the implementation of it, and I think that was one of the times we spoke about Chief Braden being just lambasted at City Council, because City Council said, Chief Braden, please come up with a plan. And then he said, okay, curfew, and here's what we want to do. And then all City Council lost their damn mind.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's coming up again. So because of the
there should
shooting,
be-
we had
there
the
should be
Dogwood
way because
Festival
of the-
that was well attended, and then we had some guys acting like fools down behind Maiden Lane. And
When?
it was Saturday night.
Saturday
Dogwood
night?
Festival.
Oh, see, I was at Dogwood Festival because my daughter was Princess Tiana.
Yep.
this year.
Congratulations.
Yep.
And we were out there, and it was about 5:30. I said, it's about to start getting dark. It's time for us to wrap this thing up and get to the house. And sure enough,
As soon as
later
you
that
wrap it
evening,
up.
About 7 o'clock, 7:30.
yeah, the
It was a little later
gunshots
than
rung
that.
out.
I don't think they lost much time
I
of the
think
festival.
I think it was probably right at the tail end.
Yeah.
I don't have all the details, and that there were a lot of people that were like, "Carrie, I know you got the inside scoop." No, I don't have the inside scoop.
Well,
I know as much as you know that it happened.
Yeah.
But there was, this weekend was a lot. Like there was a shooting at one of the nightclubs downtown.
Yeah, the big incident at
Thursday,
Bruce.
and
On
then there
Thursday?
was, not Thursday, Friday night. So Friday night there was a shooting at one of the nightclubs.
are you talking downtown?
Yes, downtown.
Okay, because the week before we had the shooting at the strip joint on Yadkin Road.
Yes,
We had that. We had the lovers' quarrel where the woman ran over her husband or boyfriend, killed him in his front yard, and then we had the shooting at Market Fair over a seat. That was last weekend.
Yes,
Then
and
the
then
Dogwood Festival weekend we had
a shooting at Crew, which was downtown Fayetteville,
okay.
And then we had
on
that
Friday
big,
night, and then we had the shooting at the library, which
Well,
was
we had shots fired. Nobody,
Oh,
I don't
shots
think anybody
fired?
got shot.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
And then there was a it looked like it was like
little
a
kerfuffle.
gesture of waving a firearm at Bruce's.
at Bruce. Okay,
Well, it
so
wasn't
that's the
firearm.
video.
Well, what it looked like what happened, from what I can tell, is chaos broke out. The security guard, the female security guard, drew her weapon
yeah.
and put it up in the air
Yeah.
to move the crowd back. And once they
Yeah,
backed up,
I don't
okay.
think that's
Let me just
proper
ask you right
crowd
now: if you whip out a
retaliation.
gun, is that to brandish and intimidate, or is that
No.
to use the damn thing?
But still,
it should be to use it.
but still, in a climate,
think she
in
should
the
have pulled it
climate
out
that
either.
in the climate that we are in, and in a community that is veteran heavy, and even with first responder heavy, a lot of those
We thug
individuals
heavy, too.
are, yes, and we're thug heavy too. A lot of those individuals, their mindset when they see a gun, unless you were planning on using it, especially if you're waving it and pointing it, then that's a threat.
Look,
Yeah.
I made a comment on Fayetteville City News, and it's been responded to a bunch of times, but I was like, look, they're lucky. That woman's very lucky that somebody didn't take that gun from her and beat her to death with it.
I mean,
Number
I don't
one.
know about
But-
taking it and beating her to death with it, but I do believe like there's I don't know. I know you guys may not believe
There is
this
a
about me,
misdemeanor
but I did do
charge.
a security guard. Like I was a security guard at one point in life, an armed security guard. And there's an escalation of force training, and I do not see, and I mean, it's only because of the video, but I do not see where the force would have rendered that escalation
I didn't
of
see
force.
anybody else with weapons in the video. That doesn't mean that I don't know what happened inside. I didn't
true.
see. I just feel like the escalation of force, she went from 0 to 3,000 right
Yes.
away. And again, she's lucky she didn't get it taken away and hurt herself. But there is a misdemeanor charge on the books in North Carolina about brandishing a firearm. It's assault by pointing a gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now-
and as far as I'm concerned, every one of those patrons is entitled to go file those charges against her,
yeah.
because then people said, "Oh, she's security." Is she, or is she just some lady with a T-shirt?
But even if she was security, like I said, I believe that there's the pepper spray, there's a baton, there are other things that you can
one of the suggestions
utilize.
I think responded to me was like they could use bear spray.
And then there were other security guards around her, so there were like at least 4 other security guards around. I mean, I don't like
the
speaking
only one
to,
that lost control was her. And that you have a fight breaking out is one thing, but you're supposed to be away from you're supposed to be separated from the emotion there and make rational decisions to protect if you really are. Look, we'll see. I hate to vilify the lady. I just from what I saw,
I don't want it to do that
I'm
either.
like, you know what? You're lucky that you went home alive that night.
Yeah.
But I do believe in the past, like since we've been without a police chief, I do believe like crime has escalated.
Well, we only been
like
without
a
a
few.
police chief for what?
Well,
3
I
weeks?
know.
We have
but-
an interim
but
chief.
good
and
grain.
Good thing
got,
you bring that up, because we're bringing former Chief Braden on next week's show.
Oh, right. Well, maybe he can
And-
tell us about
and
this escalation of
I'm
force
pretty sure
issues.
that I'm paraphrasing, but basically he's ready to talk.
Oh, let's
So
talk.
that should be a pretty good show.
Oh,
Want you
yes.
guys- I'm excited right now.
Here's the thing that we
Chief
have to
Braden is
understand
always
when you,
ready to
when you
talk.
look at crime, and I ran for mayor against Colvin, so I'm not here to defend Colvin or anything, but we must understand that I think we put too much responsibility on elected officials when it comes to crime. You cannot legislate morality. You cannot legislate people's intentions. If someone is going to shoot, a criminal doesn't care about how many laws you put on the books. They are criminals. They're going to break the law. So, I said this yesterday, talking to someone about this same incident at home before they go out in the street and act a fool at Bruce's or shoot by the library or stuff
let me
like
comment
that.
on that, because Bruce's, the crowd I saw did not look like a bunch of young bucks either.
And
It was older folks.
But
it
it goes
looked
back to parenting. Sometimes the kids are chaotic because the parents are just as bad.
Well, maybe
So
those are the parents of the kids behind the library.
there's a
So
script.
they
were
got into it.
okay, so I have a question. So it was children behind the library?
They don't know. I don't know any more
Okay.
details besides shot fired. And look, let's see, that weekend of blood, I guess we're going to call it, with the shooting and the running over and all. I was at my office on Owen Drive around 9:00 Friday. I called in to 911, a shots fired call, because somebody was across the street just popping it off. We were playing a very Fayetteville game called "Is it fireworks or gunfire?"
Okay.
And I was like, no, that's, and at first I was like, do I want to be the Karen? But I did call because they say, see something, call
Yeah,
it in.
I mean, if
And,
you see something, say something.
you know.
The good thing, you're off of Owen Drive, so you know that there's guaranteed shot spotter in the area.
I don't know if there is or not, but
I mean,
I
you know
will
that's
tell
how
you,
that one case last year.
Was it around Owen Drive?
It was,
Was it?
it was right
Okay.
there in the Carly C's parking lot.
Okay, so maybe it's nearby. But regardless, I do want to say the Fayetteville City Police, without a police chief installed officially, they did respond and had like 4 or 5 cruisers there within like.
But
8 to 10
I don't
minutes.
even think it's a matter of having a police chief installed. We have interim Chief Joyce. I've known Chief Joyce since he was Lieutenant Joyce. And so you the only thing that has really transitioned is the police chief Braden retired.
Yeah.
But the rest of the department is still in place.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. If the department cannot do its job just because one person shifted, that's
You
a
got
problem.
a problem anyway.
But I don't think that's the case. For me, it always goes back to how are you raising your kids at the house? How are
does.
you parenting these kids at the house to make sure that when they go out into the public, they conduct themselves appropriately? I posted a video on TikTok the other day of 2 police officers getting assaulted by a bunch of little teenage girls. One girl grabbed the female police officer by the hair. Then when the mama showed up, the mother starts swinging on the police. And I'm like, well, look at that. And it took me back to, there's a scripture that says, so as the mother, so as the daughter. So if the children are replicating what they're seeing at home in their community, and then they go out into society and they think this is okay. And so when we look at crime increasing, we have to look at crime is increasing because parenting is decreasing. And especially when you look at young people. And then you have the older people who didn't grow up with good parenting, and they just became older versions of their bad younger selves. And then they go out and they do these things, and then we blame the police chief, or we blame city council, or we blame the mayor. you can't do that because they can pass 50. I mean, we got so many statutes and
It doesn't
laws on the
matter
books.
who the figureheads are.
It doesn't.
It
They're
doesn't.
going to do what they're going to do. It is illegal to rob a bank.
I believe
I know
that
this
better
is-
leaders.
But they rob them.
I believe better leaders will instill confidence and.
Yeah.
But
will-
confidence in who?
Well, confidence.
And confidence in the system.
in the
and
system, in the
confidence
police,
that
in
the
the-
police.
But will that stop
Parents.
the criminals from
No.
robbing the bank over
No.
on
It won't.
No.
off of Ramsey Street like they
No.
do every couple of months?
No, but at the same time, I think, and this is probably not the great place to put this.
Is it classified?
No, this commercial out
G14
there, this
classified.
little.
I was going to say if it's classified,
mini
I am
commercial.
the president. I can
But-
declassify.
Just to let you know, Fayetteville City Police Department is actually hiring. So
Well, there's 75 officers down, I think.
They-
and
they
I
are
think the
down
sheriff's
their
department's
I think we were
retention.
down like 100
The-
officers.
the
Yeah.
sheriff's department is hiring as well, and there will be an election next year for a sheriff.
Yes.
However, Fayetteville Police Department, they are actually looking for qualified individuals,
a few brave men.
a few brave men and women
Mhm.
to join the forces to help in reducing, because the thing is that when large events like that happen, then it takes away from any type of beat time or street time that could be happening, and just overall policing to keep things
And when
from
your force
festering.
is down and you only got 2 or 3 homicide detectives, or I think it's 2 or something like that. Chief Braden to give us the number. But when your force is down and you have to respond to this and then respond to that, that leaves whole areas open because we are literally down an entire district worth of police officers. That is how, and so you got police officers pulling overtime and everything else we can't even hire the part-time ones.
Well, let me ask this and think about this for a moment. So yes, we have these homicides. Yes, it's horrible optics for anybody trying to move here to live, work, and play. But how many of those homicides have gone unsolved? I think that's a pretty low number. I think a majority of this crime, maybe it's happening and it's horrible because you can't control the hearts and minds of these individuals that are doing it. But how many are going without justice?
Well, you know what, and then so that's a good thing,
point.
and let's make sure that we have that question again when Chief Braden comes on,
Yeah.
our retired Chief Braden. However, like at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, when we were having the influx of crimes, like a lot of that were unsolved crimes that were actually they found 2 bodies, or they that we had been missing for the past 15 years. So,
I just want to add that because I don't want every time we talk about this to be that the sky is falling chicken little.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? I don't feel like I live in that bad of a place.
No.
And that is, well, and we'll talk about that on another show.
But
Fayetteville
that, I
is
mean,
a
that
great
is good.
place.
If you look at the time from the initial police report that gets issued out telling you that there was either a gunshot or a homicide, and then probably within the next 72 hours to a week, sometimes 2 weeks, you will then see that they have already apprehended the suspect or
Right.
they're arrested, or they've apprehended at least 2 out of the 5 suspects.
Which
The thing that really gets me is when you're kicking in doors to like Just Love Coffee, it's like, why?
people are desperate. People have their reasons, but
Why?
the next thing is justice is served by arresting them, but then the next argument is going to be, well, we have a weak judicial or DA, or it's like it just continues.
Do we have space in our jails here in Cumberland County?
I don't even.
That's
know.
another
I know we don't
issue.
have enough
I
jailers.
mean, I do believe that we send people to other counties.
Because we don't have
And-
enough space.
Well,
here.
El Salvador's got plenty, from what I understand. So
No, let's
okay,
not-
so
That's what
let's
I heard.
They
let's
are.
let's transition off of the hard politics here, and I
Yeah.
did want to talk to our guest John. I'm not going to
Yeah,
call
he's
him
been
Mr.
very quiet.
Gobrick. He says John, so
Call
I'm
me
going to call
John.
you John.
Yeah.
But John, I want you to before the show we were talking about your background, and we identified we're both Gen X.
Yes.
So we verified that. We had a Google search that verified.
I'm Gen X.
So you're Gen X. You're Gen X. I feel like Oprah. You get
Yeah.
one, you know. So where
I had a latchkey. You had a latchkey.
so where were you born? Catch me up to like what brought you to right now.
Oh, sure.
In a
You know,
nutshell, as
so
much
you
as
know,
you get.
I am 56 years old. So I mean, we can be here for a while
Yeah.
if you want to.
Oh,
get me
wow.
out. So hey, I was born. And,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
so I'm originally from upstate New York.
Okay.
I was born up there, and typical sheltered life, and
military family by any chance?
No. Well, so my dad. So this is interesting. So my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father were all in the Navy.
Okay.
And so I said, hey, I joined the Army.
Okay.
So-
pretty popular
Yeah.
choice around
Well,
the
that's
Christmas
great.
table.
I like girls, and I says I don't want to be out on sea for 6 months, and
There's
I
no girls
can't-
on
I
that
can't
ship.
do that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
makes
do
sense.
that.
Yeah.
I said no, I don't
You know
wanna
what
do
they
that.
say?
So
50 sailors go to sea, 25 couples come back.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
But
gosh.
Don't
yeah,
ask, don't
so, from New York, upstate New York, a little small town. Well, it really actually wasn't too bad. Rome, New York. So I don't know. It was a Griffiths Air Force Base. The base closed. The town went to crap. But back when I was there, it was a great place. And so I enlisted in the military, got shipped off. My first flight I was ever on, the plane I was on, was taking me to basic training.
Okay.
So did my enlisted time, and then went to college, got commissioned, and like I said, did 34 years. So I'm married. I got 3 boys, and we, my 2 oldest boys graduated. So they graduated from Jack Britt. And my oldest graduated in 2019. My next one graduated in 2022. And I kept going, I says, hey, I know his friends. Hey, I know Noah and these guys. He's going in the Marines. This guy was going in the Air Force.
Wow.
All this other stuff. And, I'm like, wait a minute. They don't do anything. I mean, why aren't we at least saying, hey, these guys, give them a little ceremony or pep on your back. There was very, very little. I think they did say, "Hey, he's going in the Marines" or whatever. But
So basically,
nothing special.
these kids are growing up and they are taking the plunge. They're putting their name
Yes.
on the dotted line to enlist for our country, and nobody's really
nobody
acknowledging or saying, "Hey, good job, kid."
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay.
So it would just so happen I was retiring. I retired in June of 2022, and I says, "Man, we got to do something." So I called up some buddies and started pulling my my lines of my friends that I know and said, "Yeah, what can we do?" And so we started putting some stuff together about trying to do a ceremony, and it just so happened I was online. I'm on Google. I Googled and I put high school graduation, military, and up came this organization, Our Community Salutes.
Okay.
And I was like, hey. That's exactly what I want to do. So Our Community Salutes is a national nonprofit organization, and it puts on recognition ceremonies for high school graduates who enlist in the military. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what
That's
I want to
exactly
do.
what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So,
Driving the
yeah.
recruitment up.
See?
When they
It
say
was-
thank you, recruiter, they actually mean thank the now the recruiter gets someone to thank
Yeah, absolutely.
because you help them do their job.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So how does this? So you're basically your organization. It's called Our Community Salutes. It's a national thing. You've got the Fayetteville.
Yeah, we
Fayetteville chapter
created our own
or-
little
okay.
chapter in
Oh, that's
Fayetteville.
awesome.
Yeah.
So with everything we just talked about, with the crime and the young kids and all this stuff, how does your organization? How do you think they fit into dealing with the young people like that? Like,
So what I look at it as a good news story.
Okay.
So you see on the news and you see out and you can just go down certain areas and you see the youth, and then you see these kids. These kids are making that choice. They're saying, "Hey, I don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
I don't. I want to go down the right path." And it hardens me to say that's something. It warms my heart to know that hey, there are still good people out there. These are good kids.
Yeah.
And I used to tell everybody, look for the servants, the firefighters, the police officers, the people that join the military. Those are the helpers. They're out there to help better society. And these kids are just the latest
batch.
Latest batch.
Okay.
It always warms my heart. It always makes me happy. People go, well, why do you do what you do? And I said, because it's the right thing to do. I mean, it's we live in a great country. It has its flaws, has its issues, so on and so forth. I mean, they all talked to, made some great points. I said, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans, and these kids are raising their right hand and saying, yep, I want to serve the country. And to me, that's worthy of recognition. And I do my utmost to make sure that we do the best we can.
Okay.
We started the organization. So the organization itself was started in 2009 with Dr. Ken Hartman in New Jersey. And so, I had called him up. I went online, like I said, and I said, hey, I'd like to do it here in Fayetteville. He goes,
out of all the bases, how did we not have
I said,
one?
we're the center of the universe. And I did research. I said, have we ever in time immemorial done anything like this? No. There was nothing. And so he came and said, yeah, we'd love to do it. And so we, put the stuff. We did our inaugural event was in 2022. The bishop was our chaplain. He did a phenomenal invocation and
Bishop.
benediction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was, and we were the largest. It was the largest inaugural event in OCS's at that time was 15-year history.
Okay.
All right.
We honored 93 kids and had a little over 400 people.
Where did you hold this?
At the Crown Coliseum.
Really?
Crown.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So you were fancy, huh?
Absolutely, and so then last year we increased. We had 138 kids we recognized. Had a little over 600 people grown. This year we're looking at 150 kids.
Are you seriously in the
Wow.
Coliseum with this?
So we're actually moving it in the expo. We got
You're
so
in the Expo
big
Center.
that we
Okay.
actually had to expand a little bit and get even better. We're the
Excellent.
victim
That
of our
is
own
awesome.
success.
Excellent.
So we're looking at 150 kids, approximately 700 people that are going to be there. I just checked earlier, and there was like a little over 600 people already registered.
Wow.
So we're getting up there.
And that event you have here, it's May 7th at 6 p.m. Registration at 6 p.m., ceremony at 7
Yes.
on May 7th. So, but you can register, and we'll put this link on our website.
If you would. So what we'd actually say, so the registration starts at 6. We'd actually like you to get there early because what again, we talked earlier, I said, another reason I really am passionate about, these events are, I was a dumb kid. I enlisted, like I said, I was just some dumb yokel, didn't know anything about the world.
That Canadian's coming out.
Yeah. And, so what did I do with my first paycheck? I bought that car, 28% interest, all that. And so there was no veterans that had come talk to me and said, hey, knucklehead,
Hey,
don't
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's great about these events is that's between 6 and 7 before the ceremony, and then we have after the ceremony, is we want veterans to come talk to these kids.
Yeah.
Tell them
Wow.
your story. It's
That's
a
awesome.
unique opportunity, to tell your story, saying don't make these mistakes.
Yeah, they're not coming to give lessons. You just want them to,
Talk to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
just talk. Welcome them. And so we've had a great support from the Army. We've got a bunch of Army people. Bishop was there. And so the Army kids are getting well taken care of. They're getting talked to. But what we have a dearth of is Marines, Air Force,
All right.
Navy, Coast
Space
Guard.
Force.
So
All
you-
right,
so you need
Department
the-
of the Navy out there,
Absolutely.
come on.
The
If
other
you are
branches need to
listening, Department of the
participate.
Navy,
Yes.
Department of the Air Force.
And so all those veterans out there of those branches, this is your opportunity. We can all say, hey, yeah, I'm busy or whatever, but this is your time. Give back a little bit to these kids. I know there was more dumb people than me.
I was one of them.
You come out there, you're bright-eyed, you got big eyes, you don't know what's going on, you're scared. Talk to these kids. Tell them, hey, you're going to make it. Basic
Right.
training isn't going to kill you. You're
Yep.
going to make it through. And
Listen to the drill sergeant.
And again, listen to the drill
Use
sergeant.
your stress card.
Yes.
Do not
They don't actually
your
use those
stressor.
anymore. They
don't use them anymore?
No, that actually
Praise
went
Jesus.
away.
Lord.
Yes. But
Y'all are just haters, man. You're just mad because you didn't have them.
No,
No,
That's what it
it
sounds like
takes
to me,
away.
y'all.
No, because see, it takes and I was watching like a video from old drill sergeants. Now that they with social media, they can put this information out there, and it takes away of part of the breaking down to rebuild.
What's that first 2 weeks
Like,
called
you
total
have to-
control?
Yeah,
Now they
it's
call
like
it
the-
red phase, but
Yeah, it's the whole breaking down. Like they start drilling you from the time that you get on the bus
from the time
to
you get
the
off that
time that you
airplane.
get off. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have to empty out all of
You're
your
building
bags.
uniformity.
Yes, you have to empty out all your bags, and then they give you new bags. They're
He
like,
took
now
my
forget about all
what-you-call-it,
this
Carrie.
stuff.
Yep.
Forget about all this stuff. Matter of fact, we're going to issue you a T-shirt just so you know that was issued and that's a government issue. So it doesn't matter if you go buy it from the store. Just remember that was a government item, and everything that you have now has now been issued to you, and
Let
this
me
is
tell
the
you what
only
they
thing
did
you're
to me,
authorized to
Carrie.
wear.
Let me tell you what they did to me when
What
when
did they do to you?
I was going to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. That's what we call it, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, but we call it Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri.
Yeah.
And I'm on my way down there, and I'm leaving from Pennsylvania. I'm at the MEPS in Pennsylvania. They about to take me to the airport. They give me a food voucher and say to me, when you get there, you go and you get you something to eat. And I had this food voucher for $25, and I mean I was hungry because all they gave me on that plane was some peanuts and water. And I get there, and I'm walking down the little runway thing, and I'm looking for the food court, and I hear somebody holler out, "Minor!" And I look, and it's this big black greasy-looking drill sergeant named Congo, and I turned around. He said, "Ain't you supposed to be with me?" I said, "No." I said, "They gave me this food voucher and told me to go get me something to eat." He said, "They did?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Let me see it." "That's cool. Let me see it." I gave it to him. He ripped that thing up and threw it in the trash and said, "Get on we didn't have buses. We had camel trucks. So we got in the back of camel trucks that say 50-person maximum, but they squeeze 75 in it. You got your arm up on the rail and you're swinging back and forth and you're holding on. I said, my God. But, what have I done? I know. No, I'm serious. I did. When you first go to basic training, they give you this medical form that you fill out, and it has all of these sicknesses that'll get you disqualified. I told them I had gonorrhea, cane crowed, and everything else. And the drill sergeant looked at me. She said, "You got all of this?" I said, "Yes, drill sergeant." She said, "If you had this, you wouldn't be in the Army." She said, "Bonehead, get out my face." She ripped my paper up. I hated the Army for the first 2 weeks. But after I acclimated, I promise, I didn't even want to leave basic training. I cried when I left basic training because what I received at basic training, the love, the support, the camaraderie, just all of it. Man. Like my drills, I had a male and a female drill sergeant. One called me Bonehead. The female called me Bonehead. My male sergeant, Drill Sergeant Moore, he called me Stoop. That was his nickname for me, was Stoop, because I almost dropped the eggs. So, but the love, and so when I go to our community salutes, and I've served now, I think this will be my 3rd year serving as the chaplain, and I'm looking out at all of these young people, and while they're sitting there, you can see the nervousness. And it's like nervousness plus excitement plus, they're uncertain, but they're sure they want to do it. And the parents are sitting there, and the parents are they got pride, but at the same time, they're full of fear for their child, fear of the unknown. But you look out at these young people, and you have, if you're a veteran, you have no choice but to see yourself. And to think about how you wish you had this when you were going in.
Yeah. Exactly.
And to see, I think last year we had the commanding general, and you're sitting there, and each time a branch of service comes up to shake our hands and stuff, they're shouting and competing with each other, and then the Army band gets up and they do that. It is a phenomenal event. I'm telling you, whether you're a veteran or not, this is something that you need to be a part of. You need to support these young people, because believe it or not, they are making one of the most important, if not the most important decision that will affect the rest of their lives. My life would not be what it is today if I did not raise my hand. And honestly, I don't know how I got in the military. I'll be honest, I don't know.
All of us are like that.
You didn't have the Syphagana herpes like you said you did.
I failed my ASVAB. Like the passing score for the ASVAB was a 31. I'm a quick story. 31 was the passing score back then. I scored a 20, a 22 on the ASVAB. When I sent in a little card that said I wanted to join the Army. I sent the card in one day. The very next day, I don't know how they got it so quick, but I got a phone call saying that we heard you want to go in the military, whatever. I took the ASVAB. I failed the ASVAB. They sent me home. I sat down. I was living with my cousin in York, Pennsylvania. I had left New York because I was getting high, and I was doing things that I just knew I shouldn't be doing, and I was like, I got to get out of here. So I went home to my cousin's house, and I sat down on the recliner, and I prayed. I said, God, I guess you didn't want me to go in the military, because if you did, you would have let me pass and get in. So I sat back on the recliner and went to sleep. About an hour later, I heard a bang on the door. I got up. I went to the door. It was my recruiter. I said, what you want? He said, somebody must like you because they let you in the Army. I said, me? But I failed. He said, I know, so let's go before they change their mind. And it was the best decision I don't even think I could raise my children the way I raise my children today if I had not served in the United States Army. It shaped everything about me, especially that first 2 weeks of total control. That's where the Army and the military breaks you down from who you thought you were and builds you back up to who the military wants and needs you to be. And during that time, you learn so much stuff about yourself. I mean, so I encourage people. My daughter is in Naval JROTC, and she was there last year in her JROTC uniform. And now this year, she's like, Dad, I think I want to go in the military. I think she's made, she's like a captain now in the Naval JROTC, and she loves it. That sense of pride, and when we talked about earlier, you know, how the military has changed. That sense of pride, that camaraderie, that structure, that discipline, man, that thing, it walks with you for the rest of your life. I don't care how long ago you retired. You may retire from the military, but the military never retires from you.
So
go ahead.
So what I was going to get at, so that's a lot that the military has shaped your life, and that's how important it is to not compliment, but to encourage these young people that we appreciate what you're doing. So OCS Connect lessons, there's like 20 of these things. Yeah. So when do these? So I see some. It sounds like good stuff. The why behind service, essential life skills, uniform, elevating your mindset, power to unplug. Yeah. Okay. So what kind of contact are you having with these kids to teach them this stuff? So
it's actually they can reach this anytime. You see the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner. So as soon as we find out about them, you know, the recruiters give them this OCS Connect, and they can start immediately. You know, and we know the recruiters do some of this, but the recruiters got multiple kids. And so this is something that's tailored right for them. You know, that financial literacy is one I honed in on. I was like, man, that's, hey, how to balance your check.
What kind of car did you buy?
It was a, now you got me on the spot. That was 88, because I've had a couple cars since then. It was a, oh God, I'm forgetting
a Mustang?
the name of it.
It was a GT?
It wasn't a GT. It was a, oh, doggone it. You got me. I can't remember the name of the car.
It was a Charger.
Yeah. No, it wasn't a Charger.
Yeah, one more time. We don't prep our guests. So, you know, this is what
Darn.
I get.
Yeah.
But guess what? He remembered that 28% interest. I guarantee
you remember
that.
Well,
that $500 payment that he was making on a $700.
That's what it was. A Plymouth Horizon. It wasn't a fancy car. It was just a standard car. It was just a piece of. It was a 4-cylinder.
It was a lemon.
No, it wasn't a lemon. It was a good car, but I paid way too much for it, and I paid that thing. I think I paid it off because it was like an 8-year term at 28. I mean, it was something ridiculous. But if I can go back to with the pastor, I call him Pastor Jay. So a bishop, what he was talking about, even the leaders that come there, they say, man, I was blown away, because this is time out of their, busy schedule. So we have this year, we've got the Adjutant General from North Carolina, General Hunt, and Command Master Sergeant Tomio Brown, who's going to be the enlisted speaker. Last year, we what we was talking, we had General Tooley, who is the deputy commander of the 18th Airborne Corps. The year before was his boss, General Donahue. And we got a bunch of other speakers and dignitaries that come there. But, they're busy. It's a busy schedule, and this is time out of their schedule. And so I know, they were, they of course they wanted to support, and of course, but I could tell, they were a little hesitant at first. Man, it's another event, another thing I got to go to. At the end, it was a complete. I was blown away. Hey, when can we do this again? Because seeing those kids come across the stage, and getting their coin, getting their we give them a coin, we give them the foundational documents, we give them the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and there's we talk about the Supreme Court in our government and so on and so forth.
You teach them civics?
We do.
We kind of missed that in high school lately.
Nice.
So excellent.
Landmark Supreme Court history. This is
so we give
good
them
founding document.
We give them those these things, but as they're coming across the stage, the look on their face, it's amazing. The other piece I wanted to talk about was not only talking to the kids, so for the veterans out there to please come down, but it's to the parents, because you made a great point. These parents, they're giving their kid to go serve the country, they're nervous.
Yeah.
They're scared.
Yeah.
Just as well as probably more than the kids.
Yeah, right.
So to talk to those parents and assuage their fears that, hey, they're going to make it. They're going to be okay. I can't tell you how many parents came up after me and says, I was dead set against my son or daughter going in the military, but after this, I feel better.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
What
it's
an
almost like, like you said, just giving the recognition.
Yes. Yes.
Because there's a lot of people that, they join and they might not make it, or they might make it to that first week. But if they had that initial push,
Encouragement.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because it's like now that they've walked the stage, and then you get to basic, and then it's almost like that
It's a
the
culture
little
shock.
push by the determination factor that's gonna drive you, because it's like, man, there were 600 people that saw me walk across the stage, and they're expecting me to return.
A soldier,
or a sailor, or they're expecting me. I swore to, like, it helps you reaffirm the oath. And I mean, some people may not. Some people may not need that, but some people might need that
it really
little
helps.
push that helps them, stay away from. Because just because you go to basic, that doesn't mean that everything that's outside is not at basic.
Mm-hmm.
Your drill sergeant is going to do the best that they can to keep you keep you on a straight path. But there are deterrents that are there that you still have to adjust to.
You still have to navigate candy at the strip joint.
Yeah.
You still
Stay
got
away
to
from
navigate the candy at the strip joint.
So
if you get to the strip
here's
joint.
a great, you bring up a great point. So the no-show rate generally for, just because you sign your name on the dotted paper doesn't necessarily mean you're actually going to show up when it comes down to ship.
Yep.
So it ranges anywhere between 10 to 15%. But we've done, they've done studies with our ceremonies across the country that the no-show rate or the show rate is about 100%. So those kids that were scared, and that they came and saw the support of their community, that they,
What's the penalty if they don't show up? If they sign and then they don't show up?
They usually get a entry-level discharge. So they'll process them. I mean, it's a missed opportunity, but for the most part, nothing.
It's not a
really.
criminal thing.
No, it's not a criminal
All
thing. But they get an entry-level discharge, and it shows up on. So if they try to enlist it another time, then
It'll
it
show.
becomes
Okay.
another.
It
time.
At that
becomes
point, they need a
a
waiver.
Yeah.
it becomes a bigger hurdle for them
Yes.
in the future if they
So
change
it
their
hurts
mind.
them. Yeah, and it hurts,
Yeah.
because all the time that was invested and so on and so forth.
It
So
costs
these
a
are-
lot of money to recruit
absolutely.
an
Yeah.
individual to join the military. It really
And
does.
and then sometimes, so like to talk about the lead date. So sometimes like there are people that enlist a year.
Yeah, the delayed entry
A year,
program.
Yeah.
they have a
Some of them are
delayed
still in
entry.
high school.
And that's
And
exactly.
they
we have a
raise their
bunch of
right
those.
hand, so they have to wait until they graduate in order to ship off, and then
Yeah.
it's like that. There has to be room at the
And
basic
yet
training.
You have some that do split option where
Yes.
they may be they'll go to basic training this summer, and then they'll go back to high school for their senior year, and then after they graduate, then they go off to their basic
AC,
training.
yeah.
But the other thing that I think is so amazing about our community solution, when you're talking about these young people, a lot of these young people, when you look at the neighborhoods and the communities that they come from, and they've made this decision to take on this new chapter of life, and for some of them, this is the first time they'll ever leave their environment.
Yep.
And for some of them, coming to this event and seeing all of these people, reminds me of the scripture we talk about, such great cloud of witnesses. You see all of these people, and they're there cheering you on and clapping for you. For some of these young people, this is the most support that they've ever received. And it is really that motivating factor that says, I can do this, because I'm telling you, the day I shipped for basic, I was on the phone calling the prayer line because I didn't want to get on the plane. I had to have them people pray me through. I was like, I ain't going. With my food voucher, I'm not going. But
that food voucher wasn't worth much at the end. I don't think.
But to have that support, to have, like you said, and even the families.
Yes.
If your son or your daughter, your child is going to be at this ceremony, has enlisted to serve this country, it is so paramount and important that you show up and support them. You know, you ain't got to come dressed to the nine if you don't want to.
Yep.
The best thing you can do for your child on that day is show up. And as
Be
a
present.
parent,
Well,
sometimes the best thing I can do for my child is simply show up.
Yeah.
That's
Just
it.
show up to let you know, even if I don't agree with your decision.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna show up to let you know I got you. And that's what this event does to these young people that are you know, in the process. They haven't raised their hand yet. They'll do it at the event. But these young people, they need people to show up
Yeah.
and to let them know we got you. This is one of the toughest decisions you probably ever made. I know that recruiter done gave you a bunch of sweet nothings in your ear. I used to work with the recruiters, so I know what we be saying to people. We give them a bunch of sweet nothings.
You got to get them in, Bishop. That's the way
Yeah,
it
my
is. So-
recruiter, I threatened my recruiter from the plane.
Yes.
Turn this plane around, brother. You lied to me. He was like, I can't. I said, you the government. You can do whatever you want to do. He said, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, I was fine.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so how much planning goes into this? Because this is an annual
Oh,
event.
it's
So-
oh yeah.
And you're not exactly, I know you're retired from military, but don't you have a day job?
I do have a day
You have
job.
another day job.
So this is completely run by volunteers.
Okay.
Oh,
So
that's
I've got
awesome.
about 60 people,
Okay.
approximately 60, 70, it varies, but that we started last year. After our last ceremony, which was, I think, the May 1st of last year, we started planning this year.
Wow.
Okay.
So and
That's awesome.
it takes a whole group, and so we're always seeking volunteers too. So if I can give a plug for our website, but it's
Please.
Yes.
you know it's OCSUSA.org/Fayetteville. And
Okay.
you'll come up there, and it'll come up on the page. If you would like to attend, it's a free event. We've got cake, we've got refreshments, we've got cookies, so it is good.
Cake, cookies, and
There you go. You
refreshments.
can't beat it.
Can't miss that.
But you know, you just click on the red button, register now, and there you go. If you'd like to volunteer, if it's something that you would like to do, right below that button it says "Become a Volunteer." Just click on
What
that.
kind of stuff do you need for volunteer? I mean, so planning-wise, I understand volunteering, but
Oh.
what other things do you need?
This is like it runs the gamut. So we need people to do AV. We need someone. We really need, and this is a critical need. We need someone who can help us with our website because I'm not a. I mean, I can do.
I do
Facebook
web
a little bit.
design, so just
Oh
let me
man, I
know.
will help you.
Yeah.
So we are, so I said, National helps us. They're the 501c3, but we're as a local chapter are getting our 501c3. So we've got our bank account and we're
Right.
getting all set up. But I need someone to help us put that QR code. So if somebody wants to donate, it goes right into our account, and then we can.
I got
move
you,
it.
brother.
Oh, you.
That's what
love
I
you.
do.
I love you.
That's what I
He's
do.
good
I
at
got
making
you.
those virtual plates. Pass around.
Our biggest thing is continuing this on, and,
Right.
and so it kind of goes into the community part. This is our community. These are our kids.
Yeah.
We need to help support them, and we've got great supporters. Superior Bakery, Duke Energy, Coons Crawl Space and
Okay.
Repair, multiple ones. I don't want to forget anybody. So, but there's a bunch of local sponsors, but it cost like this year it cost us just about $12,000, and so we've got to come up with that $12,000 because we're doing it planning. We're already starting next year, so we're always looking for sponsors. So if you are a business that wants to help support this. Again, same website, OCSUSA.org/Fayetteville. And on that webpage come up, it says donate to this event. Just click on donate to this event and fill out the amounts. So we have a bunch of, like I said, the businesses. It's not, we want to help you. This is a large event. This is 700 people. So it's a pretty good
And
advertising.
growing.
Yeah, and growing. So it's a pretty good advertising. So we give you a table. If you give a minimum of $500, we give you a table. You will put your name in the brochure. We'll mention you on, when we
You're
do,
right.
when we do, media. We put you in the event script. And then also we put you. I think I said you put your logo in the program.
Sure.
And our website. So both on our national and our local website. So
Okay.
it's a good bang for your buck for advertising. But it's critical that we get that support because we can't continue. we're like kids. So we're like the children organization, the nationals, the parent. Well, the parent's now saying, hey, you guys, go little.
Time to go forth.
Time to go forth and
Time
do
to go
your
forth
own
and
thing.
flourish. And be,
So they've, of course, helped us over the last couple years for our first 3.
Sure.
But now they're saying, hey.
Well, it's grown. I think.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We
Okay.
I mean,
now
it's
need
600
the
people.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot. Now, my question is, are you currently working with like VFWs,
Oh, yes.
American Legions?
Yes, and thank you very much for that. So that's a great segue. So Cumberland County Veterans Council, they gave us a very, very generous donation. VFW, my post.
Which post? Which
10630.
I don't know.
Are you the commander?
Hope Mills.
I was going to say that would be Hope Mills.
Yes,
right
it's
there
Hope
off
Mills.
of
Fantastic.
by the
Look
airport.
at you knowing VFW.
By the airport. So y'all were having a casino night.
No.
Is that the other one? See, I get them confused.
That's 670. We're 10630. We're in Hope Mills, right next to. We're off of Davis Street. We're on Davis
the back
Street.
side.
Oh,
On
okay.
the back side.
Yeah.
So they've been terrific supporters. So we talked to district and saying, hey, all these veterans organizations, come on down and help us out. Come out.
Yeah.
And again, if you're a Marine veteran, a Navy veteran, an Air Force veteran, Coast Guard, we are dying for you guys and girls. Please come down.
Are you
And
seeing
we
a lot of the
we
kids?
know you're out there.
Are you seeing a lot of the kids enlist for other? I thought pretty much it'd just be all Army here.
No.
No.
Actually, you know what? This year's, and I just checked, so the Navy actually is equal to the Army. They have as many enlistees as the Army.
Yeah, recruiting is up.
Is that Department of the Navy or like as a whole, or is that including the Marines? Or?
talking about
No,
just
that's
here.
separate. So
He's talking about the kids here.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know he's talking about
No, but
here
she's
in
talking about
Fayetteville.
because
You
a lot of
know,
people don't realize that the Marines is a part
Nope.
of the Department of the Navy.
For our ceremonies, we separate them. So they're
Okay.
the Navy, and then we do the Marine Corps because
Well,
they
the
got to
Navy
do
just
their
gives
cer-
them a ride to
Yeah.
where they're going to go anyway.
Yeah.
You know what Marines stand for? Moving around in naval equipment.
But again, if for them to come out, so try and get there as early as you can. It's 6 o'clock. The doors open at 6. You got an hour before the ceremony starts to talk to these kids. The ceremony starts at 7. We have the 82nd Airborne coming out
chorus?
again. The
Okay.
chorus, they do a phenomenal job. The
Yes.
last
Oh,
2
yeah.
years, it's just that alone. I mean,
Yeah.
we should charge for it because it's
Yeah,
that good.
I mean,
So is
82nd
there-
Airborne is actually.
Is there a cutoff date or time for the registration?
Yes, it's May 1st.
Okay.
Okay.
So please get registered by May 1st. Now,
But you can donate at any time.
Absolutely. The donation is open at any
We're
time.
open 24/7, baby. Yeah.
Now,
Donate at any time.
if you, so my name is on the spread. If you put it up on the flyer,
will.
my name's up there. So if you absolutely, want to come and it's after the May 1st, please give me a call. I mean, we want you.
Listen, people listen to the cabinet.
Yeah.
We know a guy. We'll get you in.
Yeah.
But you gotta go.
Yeah,
you
we
gotta
know a
call
guy.
Peter. He's got a guy.
Yeah.
He's right here.
Peter
so,
knows a guy.
you
We
know.
know a guy. We
We
know
really
him.
obviously
gotta
need the
bring the
registration
group to it.
because last year we were expecting, and my math is getting me wrong, but we were expecting just around 500 people. Well, 650 people showed up. So the room that we were in, if you remember, we were
Yeah.
bursting at the seams.
Yeah, there were people standing out in the hallways.
Yeah, because we base that
Wow.
registration so we can say, hey, this is how many chairs we need, this is how much food we need, and so on and so forth. So when people don't register, it creates a
Yeah,
challenge
that's bad.
for us. And
Yeah.
Next year they're going to be in the Coliseum.
yeah, but we
God willing.
Yeah.
I hope so.
we would
There you
love
go.
And they're getting the 501c3, so
That's
hopefully,
what I'm saying. Next year they're going to be in the Coliseum.
hopefully the Crown will donate the space.
So that's another story.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
They've given us some discounts, but it's so we are a nonprofit. So all of our donations essentially go straight to the Crown. That is really for each year. It goes because
For all those
like I
Crown
said,
sponsors out there.
Yeah. So if there's anybody out there that can help us out with that, we would love you to help.
yeah,
'Cause,
absolutely.
So let me make a clarification. So the National is a 501c3. We still use that.
Okay.
But so any donations are tax deductible right now.
Good stuff.
We are eventually moving to get our own, so then we can keep everything
Locally.
and make sure our funds.
Well,
go
we're
to
all
these
we're
events.
all on local politics, local
Yes.
food, local everything. So I like that. Keep it
Yeah,
local.
and that's
Local,
exactly
local,
it. I want to
local.
keep the money in what we do here because we're
Sure.
taking care of our kids.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
Now, how many other cities do in our community salutes?
So it's actually exploded. Like I said, it started in 2009. There was, I think, it started with the first, and then it kind of gradually grew. This year, we're going up to 59. There's 59 ceremonies, and they're all over the country. American Samoa, they have one in British Virgin Island or U.S. Virgin Islands. It's all over the United States.
Wow.
Good.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic, and we're getting more and more recognition, and senior leaders are going yes because they recognize this is a recruiting.
Yeah,
we bring Boy Scouts, JROTC, obviously members of the community. So the recruiters are going, hey.
Make my job easier.
Yeah, they're already kind of, immersed into the military culture. Hey, how about bringing them? So we finally got the recruiters to set up tables there, and so they'll be out there in full force and talking with these kids. So the support has been fantastic, and it's getting better and bigger each year. Next year, I'm hoping that we can get 1,000 people and 200 enlistees, and so but
the way recruiting is going now, you might very well hit that mark, because I hear those numbers are climbing.
Yeah,
yes they are. Well, you know what, guys,
it's time.
I think it's about that time.
Peter, when you keep me this late, you got to buy me dinner.
As long as you don't expect to be kissed first, so
it's time to go, Peter. It's time to go.
Listen, so our time is up for the broadcast. I want to say thank you to our on-air cabinet members. I'm going to Miss Carrie J first.
Hey.
Thank you for being here.
Proud to be an American.
Bishop J. Antoine Minor. Thank you for being here even without food. I appreciate you. And John, Mr. John Gobrick, thank you for being with us tonight and hanging out. I know we exceeded our time, but we had a lot of fun.
I had a great time.
That's awesome.
I think you're going to see some new faces, and stay for after the show. We're going to talk about that civic center.
Okay.
So, to our audience, I hope you'll do us a favor and take time this week to visit one of our commercial sponsors. Let them know you heard their message right here on the Carolina Cabinet. If you do somehow miss an episode of our top-rated show,
top-rated,
not X-rated,
you can find us on your favorite podcast broadcaster, Apple, Spotify, Google, Audible. We're kind of everywhere. So come on, look us up. And you can also go now to thecarolinacabinet.com. You can find all our videos and links. Thanks again for tuning in this morning. Until next time, we are
the Carolina Cabinet. We out of here.